Borderlands 4 came out a couple of months ago, I believe back in September, and it's a game that no one really talks about now. And in fact, like when people do talk about it, they say bad things about it. They trash the hell out of it. And honestly, like seeing some of the gameplay footage, I could see why. Borderlands 4 is basically a rushed, unpolished, I wouldn't say it's a mess, but it's both. It's just rushed and unpolished. And honestly, I feel like it should have been better than what we got, in terms of a final product, because this is supposed to be the sequel to a game that came out a couple of years ago, I believe back in 2019, Borderlands 3, which did 23 mil in terms of sales. Okay, I wouldn't say like Borderlands 3 was the most successful entry in the series. I think Borderlands 2 from 2012 was. That did like 30 mil in terms of sales. But there are people who are going on record and saying that Borderlands 2 from 2012 is better than Borderlands 4. Now, Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 4 both have open world like maps and travel and all that stuff. The only difference is for the most part is that Borderlands 2 has loading screens in between each zone and Borderlands 4 doesn't. But a lot of people feel like the level designs of Borderlands 2 are more superior. And that's crazy because that game came out more than a decade ago. And you look at like the story for this game. I mean, the story for the most part is humorous and fun, and people feel like it's a step up from Borderlands 3. But at the same time, there are certain mistakes in this game that Gearbox and 2K didn't correct, for Borderland 4, because you look at Borderlands 3 was something that was criticized for not having a raid boss at launch. And guess what they did in Borderlands 4? The same exact thing for the most part. And there were different things about this game that kind of like irked some people, like the fact that you can't skip like, dialogue and cutscenes because I don't know, that's something that most like video games have in relation to like a story driven like video game. And there's also like a thing where when you try to progress throughout certain parts of the story, the game punishes you by making you fight enemies that are 5 to 10 levels higher than you, and that should not, be a thing. And it seems very unfair, especially if you're someone that's new to the series. Um, a lot of people have been complaining about like the PC version of Borderlands 4, how there's been performance issues, how I guess like the game is a buggy mess, and I guess the XP grind in this game is very tedious, especially in relation to boss farming, and it's a lot easier if you do it with co-op gameplay. It's just like this game is heavily flawed, but at the same time, some people consider it to be a pretty decent entry. I mean, you look at the game, you look at the graphics, you look at the gameplay and all that stuff. It's something that looks fun and looks addictive, and you can tell that like effort was definitely put into this game, because you look at a lot of video games nowadays, a lot of effort isn't really put into pretty much anything. It's just AI slop and heavy monetization, and a lot of games are just money grabs. I mean, this game's a money grab too, but at least you could tell that there was some effort that was put into it. It's just that it wasn't polished, and I think that's probably the biggest complaint that people had about this game. But other than that, you had deep, complex RPG skills trees and stuff like that, and I don't know. I mean, it's probably one of those deals where people are being too harsh on the game, because I went on Metacritic. It got a meta score of 81 out of 100, but it got a user score of 4.6 out of 10. So, yeah, it seems like when it comes down to AAA games, um, gamers are way more picky now than ever. And I don't think anybody is safe unless, I guess, you're an indie developer and you actually put out something that's decent. Because I remember when Clear Obscure Expedition 33 won Game of the Year and won multiple awards at the Game Awards this past year. Um, there were a lot of people who were happy, and there were other people who were baffled as to what the big deal was. And don't get me wrong, Expedition 33 is a pretty good RPG, but the fact that it surpassed the likes of Borderlands 4 is something that it's mind blowing, you know, because I mean, Borderlands is probably one of the more um, popular IPs of the past decade or so, and it seems like a lot of these like AAA games and these big IPs that have been around for a while. It seemed like the more recent entries have it's feel like they've been overhyped and they've underdelivered or they've fallen so far below people's expectations to a point where they go online and they just review bomb them. Now don't get me wrong, Borderlands 4 is better than like Metroid Prime 4, which came out not too long ago. But but I don't know. I feel like for the most part with games like Borderlands 4, it's like I guess the developers and the companies are held to like higher standards. And if the game doesn't like live up to those standards, it's automatically considered bad. And that's something that's not fair. But at the same time, like you look at the prices, like for some of these games, like the standard edition for Borderlands 4 was $69.99. Originally it was supposed to be $80, but after like fan backlash, I think 2K decided to drop the price. However, the deluxe edition of Borderlands 4 is $19.99, and the super deluxe edition is like $130. So I think a lot of people are pissed off about the price. And as the prices continue to go up, people are going to continue to be more and more critical of like these new games, or they're going to try and find ways to emulate it. But that's neither here or there. The point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't seem like the Borderlands franchise is necessarily going down a good path, and that's especially true considering the fact that this game has underperformed, and you have the movie that came out back in 2024, which was awful. It was awful because it really didn't it wasn't too close to like the video game series in the sense where the movie was rated PG-13. And the thing is, it should have been rated R because most Borderland games, if not all of them, are M rated. And you had big names in that film like Jack Black and Kevin Hart and Jamie Lee Curtis, and still like it was considered to be like really really bad. It had a budget of $110 million, or it was more than $110 million. I don't know the exact budget, but it ended up bombing in the box office because it drew like $33 million in terms of revenue. And then I went to Metacritic, and then I saw the scores that it got. The Borderlands film from 2024 got a 26 out of 100 and a user score of 3.3 out of 10. So, yeah, that movie was like really, really bad. But at the same time, like to me, it felt way campier and hokier than I guess it should have been. So, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure whether or not it was, made for casual appeal or what have you. But yeah, it didn't work, and it was something that people felt dealt irreparable damage to the series as a whole. Now, between that film and Borderlands 4, I'm not exactly sure whether or not the franchise is going to recover. I doubt there's going to be a Borderlands 5 anytime in the near future. And I think it'd be best for 2K games to stay away from the Borderlands series at the moment.